right, I need to have you raise your right hand for me.
Okay.
All right.
He loved them so much, he murdered their mother and grandfather.
These innocent souls were locked away behind bars for crimes they didn't commit. Yes, this is something that haunts our justice system, and it's time we shed light on their stories. Yes, in today's episode, we're bringing you the top 7 reactions of innocent convicts who were set free. Number 1, John Bunn. John Bunn, from Brooklyn, New York, was only 14 years old when his life took a devastating turn. He was arrested by NYPD detective Louis Scarcella. But little did John know that this arrest would mark the beginning of a 27-year-long nightmare. You see, John Bunn was wrongfully convicted of murder. Imagine the weight of that accusation on the shoulders of an innocent young man. For 27 years, he carried the burden of a crime he never committed, and all that time, he remained steadfast in his claims of innocence. But John Bunn's story doesn't end there. For 16 long years, he fought for justice from within those prison walls, hoping for someone to listen, someone to see the truth hidden behind the layers of wrongful conviction. Finally, after those grueling 16 years, he was granted parole. But did he give up? No way. Even on the outside, John Bunn never stopped fighting. He dedicated the following 11 years of his life to proving his innocence, tirelessly battling against a flawed system. And guess what? His relentless determination paid off. The stars aligned and justice prevailed. His conviction was overturned. The truth, long suppressed. It was a mix of emotions rushing through John Bunn when he heard those words. A flood of relief, joy, and anger must have surged through him all at once. After 27 years, he was finally acquitted. He filed a lawsuit against the city of New York and Detective Scarcella, seeking justice not only for himself, but for all the precious years he lost and the countless others who suffered a similar fate. Number 2, David Ranta. David Ranta spent an astonishing 22 years behind bars for a crime he did not commit. Ranta was accused of a murder that took place in Brooklyn, New York. The police arrested him based on the testimony of Detective Louis Scarcella. Yes, this is yet another wrongful conviction connected to Scarcella. It's truly disturbing how many lives were affected by his actions. Anyway, Ranta was put into a police lineup organized by Scarcella, and one of the witnesses identified him as the shooter. Can you imagine the horror of being wrongly accused and identified as a murderer? But wait, it gets worse. Decades later, the key witness came forward and revealed something shocking. He confessed that Scarcella had actually provided him with a description of whom to pick in the lineup. Now in the courtroom, Ranta, who had maintained his innocence all along, faced a long and grueling trial. The evidence against him was flimsy at best, and reports suggested that it was even fabricated. The judge grants his motion to vacate the judgment of conviction. It was a bittersweet victory for him, as he realizes that he has finally been set free. And so the handcuffs are removed, and Ranta steps out of the courtroom as a free man. Number 3, Susan Mellon. Susan was just an ordinary woman, a mother taking her daughter to get a Happy Meal at McDonald's. Little did she know that this innocent outing would turn her life upside down. As she was enjoying a simple moment with her child, the police swooped in and arrested her for the murder of an ex-boyfriend. Her whole world was shattered in that instant. Susan, at 42 years old, found herself standing before a judge, accused of a crime she didn't commit. She was sentenced to 17 years behind bars with no parole. She had to say goodbye to her beloved kids, knowing she might never see them again. But here's where the story takes a turn. After 17 long years behind bars, a glimmer of hope appeared on the horizon. The informant who had testified against Susan was exposed as a pathological liar, an unreliable witness. The truth was finally revealed, and Susan's case was overturned. Can you imagine the flood of emotions that must have consumed her? As Susan stepped out into the world she had been denied for so long, she did something incredibly symbolic. She took her daughter back to McDonald's for that long-awaited Happy Meal. And in a small measure of justice, the state of California awarded Susan $597,000 in compensation for the years she lost. Number 4, Luis Vargas. Luis was living his life at the age of 29 in Los Angeles, California. But little did he know that his world was about to be turned upside down. He was accused of 3 sexual assaults, all based on the descriptions given by the victims. The police believed they had caught the perpetrator responsible for all 3 crimes. The weight of the accusations was crushing, and the justice system did what it believed was right. Vargas was convicted on all counts, and the gavel of the court slammed down on him with a sentence of 55 years to life. For 16 long years, Vargas lived behind bars, his spirit battered and his hope dimmed. But eventually, the California Innocence Project stepped in, and they believed in Luis Vargas' innocence. They fought tirelessly, testing DNA evidence and clothing from one of the victims, and there it was, the turning point that would change everything. The results came back, and they showed that the DNA did not match Vargas's. It was clear proof that he was not the perpetrator. The day of his dismissal arrived, and the courtroom was filled with anticipation. Vargas sat there silently, his heart pounding on his chest, as the judge delivered the life-changing verdict. Innocent. He turned to his mother, and with a trembling voice, he said, "Please buy me a big hamburger, and let's enjoy it together." A seemingly ordinary request, but behind those words lay a desire for a taste of the freedom he had been denied for so long. Number 5. Daniel Villegas. Daniel's nightmare began at the tender age of 16 in El Paso, Texas. It all started with a shocking double homicide that shook the community to its core. But Daniel was innocent. He had nothing to do with those terrible crimes. An El Paso detective allegedly resorted to intimidation tactics, threatening Daniel with beatings and even the death penalty if he didn't confess. Under immense pressure, the teenage Daniel signed a confession prepared by those very detectives. Within hours, he realized his mistake and desperately tried to retract his words, but it was too late. Now, fast forward to the courtroom, the judge's reaction to Daniel's case was a pivotal moment that would shape his destiny. After enduring the torturous uncertainty of a retrial, the jury finally returned with a verdict: guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison for a crime he never committed. For 18 years, Daniel lived within the cold, unforgiving walls of his prison cell. Finally, after 18 years, Daniel's verdict was overturned, and he was set free on bond. And reportedly, he has filed a lawsuit against the city of El Paso in compensation for the years he lost behind bars. Number 6. Ricky Jackson. Ricky was just 18 years old, living his life in Cleveland, Ohio, but little did he know that his world was about to turn upside down. He was accused of a murder he did not commit, and the main witness, a mere 12-year-old named Eddie Vernon. But here's the thing: Eddie didn't see a thing. He was manipulated by the police and forced to testify against Jackson, and that testimony led to his conviction. Fast forward nearly 4 decades later, 52-year-old Eddie Vernon steps forward, his conscience weighing heavily upon him. He declares the truth. He never witnessed the murder. The charges against Jackson crumble like a house of cards. Finally, Ricky Jackson, after being wrongfully imprisoned for a staggering 39 years, is about to hear the words he's been longing for. And there it is, guys. Ricky Jackson was free. Finally, number 7. Kirsten Labato. Kirsten Labato was just 18 when she was charged with a brutal murder in Las Vegas. She's convicted of first-degree murder, a crime she didn't commit. On a retrial, Kirsten's conviction is changed to voluntary manslaughter, and she's sentenced to 13 to 45 years. A lighter sentence, but still an immense injustice. After spending a staggering 16 years behind bars, new evidence emerges. Finally, the day arrived when Kirsten walked out of prison as a free woman. Imagine the emotions she might have felt. Anyway, these compensations or lawsuits aren't going to compensate for their lost time behind bars, right? What do you say? Do drop your views in the comment section below. We'll meet again in the next episode. Until then, stay tuned.